Hello and welcome to another episode of Flight to Freedom. Today I'm joined by Dr. Cristina Castagnini, a licensed psychologist and certified eating disorder specialist who focuses solely on helping women heal their relationship with food and body image so that they can live more balanced, fulfilling lives. She's also the host of Behind the Bite podcast, where she has deep, powerful conversations about the realities of eating disorders and recovery, busting myths and helping people feel seen and supported on the way. Cristina, I am so happy to have you here today. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
As I just said to you, I will tell the listeners, when I first started recovery, yours was one of the podcasts I listened to, and it really helped. It's an excellent podcast. And I was just saying before we hit record, thank you for what you do, because it really does help people, and it really did help me.
I was so surprised and happy to hear that. And thank you for saying that. The whole reason I started was I said, oh gosh, if I even have one person listen, as you do a podcast, right? Like I
Yeah.
started just doing solo shows and I was talking into a mic and I'm like, is anyone listening out there in the world? I'm in a room by myself. And so it's so nice to meet someone that actually was one of those people listening and to know,
Yes.
you know, it helps. So thank you for saying that.
So, can you start by sharing what led you to focus your career so specifically on food and body image and eating disorder recovery?
It's so funny. People ask me that. And I said, oh my gosh, this was the last thing I wanted to focus on because I struggled with an eating disorder and body image for so much of my life that when I recovered, I was like, okay, I already knew I wanted to be in the helping profession and a psychologist, but I have my master's degree in clinical psych with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. So I thought, okay, I'm going to focus on couples and families. Like, I'm not going to talk about eating disorders. I'm going to steer clear because I don't want to give into that myth that was out there that, oh gosh, therapists always put themselves in the room and they talk about themselves. Like, nope, not doing it. Plus, I was worried, like maybe I'll get triggered and, I don't know what's going to happen. So if somebody starts talking about it, but I found myself, there's certain things about having an eating disorder that your mind has thoughts that people who don't ever have one, they can't understand. The thoughts are just so different.
Yeah.
And I remember doing an intake for depression with somebody, and we got to the part where sometimes one of the symptoms is either an increase or decrease in appetite. And they said something that was so like eating disorder thoughts. And I went, that's not depression. What? And it was just something clicked. And we started talking a little bit more. And before I knew it, they were just saying things that were so, I call it the Ed voice. And I
Yes.
was like, I don't know. You might have depression, maybe, because sometimes depression and eating disorders go together. But I said, I really think this is something else. And, it was just that knowing. It was like, oh my gosh, no one's ever understood this part of me. Like, it was just this moment where I was like, oh, I think if she'd seen another therapist, she just would have been diagnosed with major depression. And this whole eating disorder would have just been totally like under the radar, which happens, unfortunately, a lot of times. Is
Yeah.
underdiagnosed.
Yeah,
So that's really
definitely.
what happened. As okay, I think unless you've walked the walk or you've been through recovery, you miss so much and you don't really get it. So
Definitely. Um, I'm really interested though, because you said that you were worried that it might start triggering you because of your own struggles.
mhm,
Has it done
mhm.
that, or has it been the opposite?
It's refreshing. It's then the opposite. It actually solidified my recovery. It made me realize, oh my gosh, I remember how awful that was and how much hell my life was. And I would never in a million years want to go back. Like, oh, thank God it's over. Yeah. So it did a lot just to go, oh, yeah, this is the other side. That's what this looks like. So, yeah.
Yeah, I found the same. It's like when I'm coaching people, I'm like, this is a reminder of exactly why I recovered. exactly what I don't want. And it really, I don't know, I think it's supporting somebody else with what you've been through yourself helps ground you in your own recovery, I think.
Mhm. I think so. And I
So,
think also it helps. Yeah, I think yeah, exactly to your point. It grounds you. And then I think also it helps. I don't know if you find this, like, instill hope in other people. Like, I didn't have
yes.
that through my recovery. And that's, to me, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Are you happy to share a little about your struggles with the eating disorder and your recovery?
Sure. I mean, it spans a long part of my life. So there was like all these different moments, but, people always think that there's one root cause of an eating disorder. And I have to say this, every person has their own perfect storm of whatever leads them to that. And, I think just I was set up in a way, like, from birth, right? I had two birthmarks, and I remember just being given the message, like, something's wrong with your body, you're deformed. And it certainly didn't help that I was, from, I think, infancy, brought to like major hospitals, to be researched, if you will. And I just remember doctors in white coats, like, taking pictures of me, and it was like, ah. And as a kid, that's really scary, right? But I
Yeah.
just, in my mind, was like, something's so wrong with me. I have to go here. It was awful. And tied to that, and, God bless her. Like, I know my mom was just meaning to, like, kind of help me feel better. But after all those visits, we'd go get a cookie at the bakery. Um, and I think back and I'm like, was that my first tie to, like, oh, food's comfort and a
Mm,
reward? Probably. I wasn't thinking that at the time, but, there's all these things that happen along the way, right?
yeah.
Um, but that was in my mind. Like, my body's so awful. It's just, something to be hidden, and, like, people are going to look at you. And they did, they saw my birthmark and they were like, oh my God, what happened to you? Right. So, when I hit puberty, and one of my big birthmarks was on my shoulder. So it was very visible. And when you're turning into puberty and you want to go wear swimsuits and tank
Yeah.
tops and, like, all the things, I was, like, covering up and, like, looking kind of strange to my friends, like, why won't you go to the swimming pool? Why? Um, so I'll say this, like, there was pivotal moments. One pivotal moment was this: my aunt decided she was going to have this big, huge Italian wedding, and I was going to be the junior bridesmaid, but the dress was strapless. So I was going to be walking down the aisle with hundreds, literally, of eyeballs looking at me, and I'm going, oh no, no, like, no, I don't wear strapless. So underwent, what was a surgery that hadn't ever been done before. I took myself out of sixth grade, stayed home, which isn't great for when you're in sixth grade. Got this surgery. It didn't work. Then I felt more like a failure. People still kept asking what's wrong with me. But this was the start of everything. I was just like, I felt so out of control of my body. And then I felt like, now I really have to do something to feel, like, good. My body, during puberty, you start
Yeah.
getting
You
hips and
just want
boobs
to
and the
be
whole thing,
accepted,
right?
don't you? Yeah.
This was all happening around the same time, so I found SlimFast. Like, for those of you who don't know what that was, back in the day, that was advertised everywhere. It's like the
Oh,
miracle shake,
have a
right?
shake for lunch, a shake for breakfast, and 3 lettuce leaves for dinner.
I mean, it was ridiculous, right? But I was, like, taking my babysitting money, and I ran down to the store, and that was the pivotal, like, that little time there was it, right? And I was like, I got compliments. You look amazing, and I felt amazing, and I was like, I was in my little hole of, like, oh, in my SlimFast hell. So this was the start of everything. Like, fast forward through my life, there was just these, like, moments. I was an athlete as well, throughout my life. So it was, I need energy, but I don't want to gain weight in my head. And so I would do these tricks, like, okay, I'll restrict really hard. But I needed to eat. Okay, I'm going to eat. Now I play games in my head, like, okay, I can throw up. Oh, I can eat. Oh, I can eat and get rid of it. I can use laxatives. I can throw up. I can over exercise. I was all over the map. My life was so chaotic. If so, people ask, like, what eating disorder did you have? I'm like, when? I had them all. I mean,
Yeah.
truly. Which day, which moment, which I was severely restricting for some times, and then I was binging, and then I was purging. I was everywhere. So, um, last pivotal moment was I passed out for hours. I was taking on another herbal fast that was supposed to be healthy to cleanse myself. That's what I told myself, right? I passed out for hours on my kitchen floor. I mean, literally hours.
Wow.
Scariest moment of my life. And sorry if I'm being graphic here, but for people to know, I think it's important. Like when you pass out like that, everything in your body, lliterally everything comes out of you because you go into
Yes.
shock. Woke up and every thing that you can think of was vomit, poop, pee. Like everything was all over me. And I was like, and I had a huge knot on my head, and I was like, what happened? I think I lost like 5 or 6 hours. So ended up in the emergency room, EKGs, CAT scans, like the whole nugget. And I was like a wake up call, like I'm done. So that's when recovery started for real.
That's a big wake up call.
Yeah, it's huge. No more.
Was that your first proper attempt at recovery?
I had tried before. I had seen, but back when I was going through this, I'm aging myself now, but like, look, there was no internet, there was no anything. And I think there was maybe an after school special that just had like very, very basic things about a gymnast or something. Um, and I knew Karen Carpenter died of a heart attack. And like, that's about it. That's all I
Yeah,
knew. I just seriously thought I sucked at dieting. Like for real, I had no clue that I was really, really sick. Isn't that scary? Like,
it is. It is really scary. And I mean, you were saying all the things like the herbal cleanse and stuff, the things that you thought you were doing for health.
mm,
I think that's so common. I think there are probably millions more people with quite severely disordered eating or eating disorders doing it in the name of health.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think of intermittent fasting. I'm like, oh, loads
Been
of,
there, done. I've got that t-shirt and keto, paleo and vegan,
yeah. I mean, yeah.
all the things. And then there was all the stuff about, oh, the longer you fast for, the better it is for you. So I would go like a week, 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and people were like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And no, it wasn't. I was
It's not
literally
amazing.
just starving myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, I was thinking back, I was actually trying to do a trajectory like of all the diets. They always say they have their 15 minutes of fame. There's so many I couldn't even keep up. There's so many. And I just sit back, I'm like, what's next? So there's another one coming. And it's like, okay, so if they all worked, there wouldn't be so many, and you would still be on the same one you started. Like,
Yeah. The funny thing is, as well, all the things that I did for the sake of health, the rules of what meant healthy changed. It's like there was a phase of don't eat eggs. Eggs are dangerous. Eggs are terrible. Eggs are going to give you high cholesterol and stuff. And then it's eggs are superfoods. You've got to eat eggs all the time. And
oh, yeah.
don't eat butter. It's terrible. Then do eat butter. It's much better than margarine. And you're just like, the rules changed all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't question it. I just changed with the rules. And that
Yeah.
I find crazy now that I just blindly followed all these things without ever questioning them.
I think everybody did, because I remember that too. Like, oh no, just eat the whites. The whites are okay. No, eat the whole egg. You need the whole egg. Oh my god, totally. Avocado, the same thing. I mean, there's all these foods that have come and gone as like carbs. Oh my gosh, when I was growing up, carbs were king. Like, eat all the carbs you want,
Yes.
right? Don't eat
Yeah.
any fat. Don't eat fat. Fat's bad. And now it's like flipped or something. It's like carbs are so scary. And I'm like, why
Yep.
are carbs
Yeah.
scary?
Now they're the devil, and fats are quite good. Um, but the other thing I did was I kind of followed the trends, but like with the low fat thing, when that came back, but then carbs became bad, I was still trying to do low fat at the same time, and then low carb, and then vegan but keto, which left me nothing to eat. Oh, it's terrifying how important it feels and how genuine we were in doing this, and how diet culture just is this horrific, monstrous money-making machine,
Mm-hmm.
and people are quite literally dying from it.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, right? Because we have this idea or this perpetuated idea that, like, if you're in a smaller body, you're healthier, you're more attractive, you have more value, you have more worth. So everybody wants that, right? I want to feel
Yeah,
more attractive. I want more value. I want everyone to tell me I'm healthy. I want to be healthy, quote unquote healthy, right? Because that's the first thing doctors tell you is like, oh, lose weight. You need to be healthier. But I always say that there are a lot of people who are in smaller bodies they're not meant to be in genetically to be at a state of health. And they're doing very unhealthy things, just like I did, you did, whoever, to get into those smaller bodies. They're very not physically healthy, even mentally, emotionally healthy. Like their bodies, their minds, their lives are suffering so much. And yet they get like the pat on the back. Everyone's like, "You look great. You look so healthy." And the BMI, which we'll get on another soapbox about that. Don't listen to BMI, but like they fall into the category, right? Because that's
yeah,
like, if they're not, then they get the ding at the doctor's office, right? Or they get a bad label. It's like, okay, are you really healthy? You look quote unquote healthy societally, like you're meeting this standard of beauty, but to your point, those are the people that people, oh my gosh, they ran every day. They ate so quote unquote healthy. How did
yeah,
they die of a heart attack at 35?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And people are so shocked, but actually, it's not that unusual.
no,
And it's so validated.
yeah, it is. It's sad.
It
It's
is.
sad. Yeah, I was just reading that article. There was the Victoria's Secret runway show. Um,
Okay.
and I forget what her name is. Excuse me for blipping at the moment, but there was a quote unquote larger bodied model, right? And by societal standards, she's just like what most women look like, right? Truly. But there was such a backlash. Like, what is she doing wearing lingerie? Like, I mean, the horrible comments. And it's like that right there. I mean, if you're a woman who looks like most women in society, you're watching that, you're reading these things. What are you thinking? I look like that, and everybody's calling her all these horrible names. So vicariously, you're just taking that in, going, "Well, shoot, like I guess that's what people think of me." Like that's horrible,
It's horrendous. And then anybody in a larger body than that
right?
gets an even worse message.
Yeah. I mean, and that's I guess my point is like when they're saying that's a plus size model, say right, and then to your point, that's like what an average looking woman looks like. We're in trouble.
Yeah,
We're in big trouble.
it is horrendous. So, what sort of things do you think people can do to help protect themselves from this poisonous barrage that we live in that surrounds us? We have this messaging at us all the time.
Well, I think curating your social media, if you're on it a lot,
Mm,
the algorithm gets tailored to you. So that becomes your worldview. So, for instance, right, if you start like going on Instagram and searching like stocks and bonds, you know, you're going to get all this financial stuff and your algorithm is going to show like a bunch of banking stuff and stocks and investments and this and that. You're not going to get anything about like eating or food or dieting. It's not going to happen, right? Um, so think about that for a second. Like whatever you look at more, you're going to get more of. And
yeah,
so
for sure.
that, watch who you're like clicking on because if you're looking at like oh, this person's, in a bikini touting like, oh, I, don't diet and I promote like healthy eating. You got to question that for 1 second. First of all, I'm sure you and I don't put posts out there in bikinis.
No.
Hi. I don't know. That's strange. Question things, and then like also notice how you feel after. If you feel after you get on social media and you're looking at all those things like, oh my gosh, you start having these thoughts of you wanting to lose weight or feeling bad about yourself or body checking. And what I mean by that is like looking in the mirror, going and like weighing yourself, or like trying on clothes, just doing different things, going and looking at other people in comparison to you, and getting all in your head about
Shaming your body in some way, yeah.
yeah, then that's not healthy. I mean, it's having a real effect on you.
I actually did that when I first started recovery, and I unfollowed anybody that made me feel less than. I followed loads of, like, fitness and stuff accounts because I was labeled the fit one. I was so into exercise and over-exercise and extreme exercise, and, so I unfollowed pretty much anyone that was in that world,
Mm,
and I started following people in mid to plus size bodies who were body positive.
mm,
And I honestly, to begin with, when my coach told me to do this, I did not believe that it would make any difference. I was very skeptical, and I was like, well, being exposed to seeing that isn't going to make my brain think it's more acceptable, because I was so like, gaining weight is terrible, because I was terrified of it, which is obviously part of the disorder and society. But the people who I followed, that to begin with, I was just like, no, I can't even look at them. It is completely normal to me now. And my brain did adapt and accepted all different size bodies as normal, rather than just these super undernourished, super fit ones. That it works, is what I'm trying to say. It really does work. And you might not believe it works, but it really works.
it does. And yeah, I think people say, oh, how could that have an effect? But think about it. How many hours, you probably even aren't aware of how many hours you're spending on social media being subjected to all those messages, like in a day, a week, a month. It really has an effect on how you think about things, how you see the world. And so, yes, if you're getting rid of all of those toxic messages, it shapes, the way you think about things and yourself. And also, if you're constantly seeing a certain body type consistently, that's unrealistic and idealized. First of all, it's probably filtered. It's probably not even normal. Like that's what is in your head about what a normal body looks like, right? Like what is an ideal body? So then that's your in your head. Like when we all think of the word chair, right? We have some sense of like a chair. So
Yeah,
when you see a chair, it's like that's a chair.
yeah.
So now you have
Did you
that
come
idea.
up with a kitchen chair there?
What's that?
Did you come up
What's
with a
that?
kitchen chair when you said chair as the picture in your head?
Well, I'm just we all have an idea. Like we know that like
Yeah,
a tree's not a chair, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
We
guess
all
the
come up
point is
with a
like when you
picture.
yeah. So then when you look in the mirror or at a picture of yourself, you just mentally are comparing like what you have in your head as the ideal body or what you're supposed to look like or want to, and you're never going to compare in a positive way. It's going to be like, wait a minute, it's not computing. Like I hear this all the time. You tell me maybe what your experience is, but most people hate pictures of themselves too. They hate looking in the mirror, they hate pictures. It's awful.
Yes. Yeah, I had to do a lot of work on being able to see myself in pictures, just as a memory of the occasion that the photo was taken, rather than something to criticize myself about. And yeah, I did have to do a lot of work around that. Again, with mirror work as well.
Yeah.
But our brains will find what we ask them to find, which is quite amazing, really. It's like if you go out and look for red cars, you will see. loads and loads of red cars. Or if you go out and look for stones in the shape of hearts, you will find them. Your brain will find whatever you're looking for. So when you're standing in front of the mirror, if you're looking for something that you don't even have to like, you can just be okay with to begin with and keep looking for that, it grows, doesn't it? It gets better. You find more and more things that you can be okay with, and then you start to like things.
Absolutely. Yes. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
It does. Okay, so we looked at social media.
Hmm.
How else can people protect themselves?
I would say if you are around people that you know are always talking about dieting or they are exercise, anything that's like your trigger, um, if you need to step away because I know that a lot of times we have people in common when we're in this that like also are like-minded, and it can be hard. Sometimes you lose friendships, sometimes you have to change your social circle, and that can be even more difficult, right? um, so just kind of see like what's working for you and what's not. If you, especially it, there's some people you can't get away from. Like if you live in a household where people are just, that's the norm. Maybe that's why you have the eating disorder, body image
Yeah,
issues, like people are constantly talking about dieting and weight and like talking about what's in this food. And families are notorious for this, right? Like, oh, Aunt so and so let herself go. And, oh my gosh, what's in this
yeah,
food? There's so many. Oh my gosh, I got to go to the gym. I just ate so much after Thanksgiving, whatever. I mean, you can't get away from certain people. Um, but just, I think, starting to have the awareness of how those comments are around you and how they affect you, because I think when you're in it, you don't even register. You just think they're normal.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to be out and not hear those sort of comments, not necessarily towards yourself or with the people you're with, but just in general. Diet
Mhm.
culture talk is everywhere, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Do you find that? Because I constantly hear it, and I always want to. That's no good or bad food, or don't say that.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
bite my tongue. Stop. I can't save the world. Like, it's
Yeah.
so hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard.
And it's like I've got a group of friends and we'll go out for lunch or something, and there's a couple of them that will always say, "Oh, well, I can't have dinner now." I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna."
Oh.
Yeah. Earlier when we were talking, you mentioned BMI and looked like you had quite a lot to say about BMI. Can we go there?
Just don't. Just it's awful. Just let's forget it exists. It's like the worst. I don't know. It's so bad. I've written so many articles on it because I hate it. It's like this statistic from the 1800s that makes no sense. It's not tied to health or weight, or it was literally this like statistician in Belgium from like the 1800s who was asked for one. There was one little village, I think, or city in Belgium. It's like, can you give me the average height and weight of the people in this one village? That's it. That's like going to a kindergarten class and saying, can you give me the average height and weight of the kids in this classroom?
Yeah.
And that became the standard. Like, what are we talking about here? What? Why that became the standard? I have no freaking clue, but like that's ridiculous. Like what? And then it changed. This was the funniest thing. There was like, oh gosh, I can't remember
Oh,
when it was.
didn't like thousands of Americans suddenly become obese overnight because they changed the numbers? They were like, "What?"
Yes. Oh my gosh. It was like, really? How did that happen overnight? Like that's how arbitrary it is. But if you look at, I always say follow the money. Maybe I'm getting, sorry if it offends anybody, but come on. Life insurance companies use it to like deny or prove people for life insurance too, right? But it's mandated. It was at least always mandated. You had to go get a physical to get life insurance, at least certain premiums. And so if you were in a certain BMI category, guess what happened? Like either your premiums went up or you were denied or something. Now, how did that become something that was like tied to life insurance? Because they said it was a, quality of health thing, like criteria.
It's definitely people preying on insecurities, isn't it? You're making money from somebody's insecurity. I got sent a letter when my eldest son was, I think he was about 7 years old,
Mhm.
and they weighed and measured them at school. And he was not very tall.
Mhm.
He was what my grandma would have described as wiry. So he was very physical. He did a lot of swimming. He
Mm.
was always climbing trees, causing chaos. And he was quite muscular for a little boy. But he had just a classic little boy's body. He wasn't big, he wasn't small, he was just a normal looking child, but he was quite muscular. And I got sent a letter home shaming me because his BMI put him in the obese category. Now,
Mm.
when you look at him, you're like, he's not at all. And it was simply because for a child, he was quite muscular. And that made him a little bit heavier. And I think it's so harmful and damaging that even at 7 years old, he was being told he wasn't acceptable.
Yeah. I mean, 7 years old. And for you to be shamed nonetheless, like, what is
Yeah,
that? What are we
yeah.
doing? No, it's horrible. It's absolutely, don't get me started on the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines. The new ones just, yeah, no. Because what does that do? That tells a child something from, again, such a young age, like something about them and their body. They become automatically self conscious about their appearance, their weight, when like maybe before they didn't even think about it, nor should they be.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the world is set against health, I feel. I really do. I think the so called trying for health creates so much anxiety and fear and disordered eating
Mhm.
in any size body that, oh, I don't know. I would just love to like dynamite the whole diet industry and
Let's do that. You and me. Let's go.
okay,
Figure it out.
and blow up BMI.
Hmm. Perfect.
Brilliant. Let's get a campaign going. Don't quite know how to go about it. Might need a bit of thought, but okay. So, what else did I want to ask you? I wrote some notes down here. Talking about diet culture and um, the people saying triggering things and stuff. What would you say are some things people should never say to somebody who's struggling with food or body image?
Never anything about their appearance at all. Like just nothing. You can say something else like, "Oh my gosh, like how's work going? Congrats on your, whatever," or anything else. There's so many other qualities about somebody. You do not need to make a comment about their appearance. Please. That is awful. I don't know about you, but like I have so many patients that like they're so worried about going to a party or a holiday or something, especially if they haven't seen people in a while and people are like making some comment on their appearance. Like, no, do not do that. It's awful, right? Because when you get a comment after, say, a diet, and it's been going for a while, right? People say, "Oh my God, it feels so good when I get a compliment." But then when the compliments stop, it's, "Oh my gosh, do I not look good anymore?" Or even when you do get a compliment, it's like, "Well, gosh, did I look horrible before?" Like, it plays tricks on the mind, right?
Yes.
No, cut it out. Number one. Comments on what they're eating. "Oh my gosh, you eat like a bird," or "Oh my God, you eat so much." Just don't make comments about how much people are eating or how little or what, or even your own food. I think that's
Yeah.
triggering too, because hearing it, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna gain so much weight from this meal," or I'm so bad. Oh my God, like stop. We don't need to be
Yeah, I
talking
think
about
the
food.
same goes for bodies as well. When you an appearance, if you're commenting on your own appearance, that can be
Mhm.
triggering too.
Absolutely. Um, And I know there's a lot of like meaning, loving people that like, oh, I just want to support whomever or whatever. But you know, I don't know why people think, especially if somebody in a larger body is going into treatment with me, and there's this assumption. I get it because it's such a toxic diet culture we're living in, but their body, they can be in treatment with me for a while, and the eating disorder is like really, it's becoming non-existent, or they're going into full recovery and their body doesn't change. And they're going, everyone in my life is saying like, oh, treatment's not working, you're not losing weight. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like, do not make comments on somebody's body and, oh, well, why isn't treatment working? What? No, they're not on a diet when they go in for treatment. Like, stop that. I think that just wreaks havoc on people's minds. And I hear that all the time. And it's like, because people do come in to see me and they're like, okay, so if I stop binging or I stop doing this, my body's going to stabilize or it's going to look different or this. It's like, I think having even those notions or those misperceptions or whatever's out there, we don't know what's going to happen when someone goes into treatment with their body. No idea
No.
because you've been doing all this stuff to it. It's your body's out of whack. But it's certainly not helpful to tell somebody who's doing so much work in treatment that, oh, it's not working. It's
Yeah,
awful.
that is really tough.
Um,
So what would you love
one
to
thing I think
see?
people, yeah. Hmm.
Sorry, carry on. One thing you think people.
Oh, and just one real quick thing I think people don't realize is when they tell somebody, "Oh, you look really healthy," that can be a huge trigger. I
Yes.
know for me it was huge, and I know for a lot of people, when people hear you look healthy, they don't hear a compliment. They hear,
No.
"Oh gosh, I've gained weight," and spiral into restriction mode or overexercise mode. So just again, reiterating, do not make a comment on someone's appearance, even if you think it's like benign or not about weight or anything. Just don't. You don't know how it's going to be taken because when you've never had an eating disorder or any body image issues, you cannot possibly imagine what convoluted stuff goes on in the mind, like at all. Very complex.
And it is crazy convoluted, isn't it? It's as you said at the very beginning of this episode, that the thoughts that somebody has in an eating disorder can only really be understood by somebody in an eating disorder or who's lived in an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there anything, well, there's lots of things we haven't talked about. I think we could talk for quite a while, but is there anything you would love to leave the listeners with before we round up for this call?
One major thing, there's a huge myth out there that you never can recover fully from an eating disorder and you always kind of suffer from it. And I will scream this from like every rooftop. That's not true. Don't, fall short in treatment. I think people just go, oh, it's good enough, or I've gone far enough. I'm always going to have to suffer with this. That is absolutely not true. You can fully recover. You can live a life without this. So keep going, have hope. You can listen. I always tell people if I could overcome this, anybody can. So, quite truthfully, so that's a lot of why I do this work.
Same. I completely agree. It drives me mad when people say, "Oh, once you've got an eating disorder, you've got it for the rest of your life. You just have to learn to manage it." It's absolute bullshit.
Thank you. It is. Well said. Should make like a bumper sticker.
Yeah, I certainly do not have an eating disorder. And I have had one for a very, very long time before I recovered. And I absolutely don't have one now. So you can totally, fully recover. How can people learn more about you, contact you?
The best way is on my website for the podcast. Is all the links to my social media and to the podcast. It's www.behindthebitepodcast.com. Also, the podcast is Behind the Bite, and it's on all the places you can listen to podcasts.
Brilliant. I'll put everything in the show notes as well. But Christina, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting with you. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thank you. You're doing amazing work, so thank you.